I would say I'm going to go have a drink, and not instantly, but really steep downward spiral right after that just goes in to where I would get arrested, or I'd make a wrong decision or what have you to not improve my life. So just recently in the last 3 years, I became clean and sober. Um, Last year, I took my construction company from 0 to 250K gross. This year, I have goals to get to 1 million. I have a healthy, happy household. My family's good. And yeah, it's just life is good. I was down in the deep trenches.
Welcome to the Audacious Living Podcast, hosted by my man, Audley Stevenson, the Odd Man.
Greetings and salutations. Welcome to the Audacious Living Podcast, where we strive to empower our listeners to live their best audacious lives ever. It's always a pleasure to have you here, and I appreciate you taking the time out of your busy day to tune in and explore the new possibilities with us here on the podcast. Our guest today is Kelly Killingsworth. He's a true example of resilience and transformation from a troubled childhood and struggles with addiction to building a successful construction company. Kelly's journey is an inspiring testament to the power of determination and perseverance. In this episode, Kelly shares his profound story of overcoming addiction, finding resilience, and navigating the ups and downs of life to emerge stronger and more determined than ever. His insights and experiences will serve as a beacon of hope to anyone facing similar challenges and struggles. And when you think of the challenges and struggles of life, very similar to walking through a dark tunnel, the path may be uncertain and filled with obstacles, but there's light at the end, guiding you towards a higher future. Now that we've got the stage set, it's time to turn our sights over to our conversation with Kelly Killingsworth. Enjoy. Hey, Kelly, thank you for joining me here today on the Audacious Living Podcast. I appreciate you taking the time like this, my friend.
Man, I'm very grateful to be here. Thanks for having me.
This is awesome. I know we spend much time on this podcast, really encouraging individuals to embrace that audacious life that we talk about here often and always, and really the important thing to understand with this is that pathway that each of us take is our own, right? We're all on our own individual path, and how we get there, and the things that we encounter and things that we have to overcome will always be different for each and every single one of us. I do believe there's tremendous power in sharing these stories because of what they can do to help others, and from the upliftment and encouragement and the inspiration. And I think it makes sense for yourself because you have a very powerful story of resilience and getting through some difficult and challenging times. And so maybe as a starting point, Kelly, I can get you sort of explain a little bit to our listeners, what were, a little bit of your story, and let's go from there.
Yeah, great. So I started out in a pretty troubled childhood, and grew up. My parents, it wasn't a very healthy lifestyle that they were living, so they split apart, separated at a very young age, or I was at a young age, and pretty much my youth was spent between households. My whole family has been alcoholics and drug users, and went through high school. I was into alcohol at that time. At the age of 15, I started drinking and then experimenting with drugs myself. And it just led to a very steep downward spiral, after high school. After that, I wrecked my street bike that I had, and I broke my neck. I broke my back. And I had to learn to walk with a walker again. Wow. Well, the pain medications prescribed to me at that time, after that, I think that kind of escalated me into the drug using, because I would abuse that with my alcohol. And so I was going nowhere in my life, and I knew I had to make a change. So I joined the military, and I went into the Army in 2007 to 2012. Went to Iraq in 08, 09, and Afghanistan in 2012. And then once I got home, I had my daughter 4 days after I got home. That was when I was out of the military. I stayed home. I ended up joining the union. I made a fairly good wage, and I still wasn't making the right choices for myself, though. Every time I would do good, I would say, I'm going to go have a drink, and instantly, not instantly, but really steep downward spiral right after that just goes in to where I would get arrested, or I'd make a wrong decision or what have you to not improve my life. So just recently, in the last 3 years, I became clean and sober. Last year, I took my construction company from 0 to 250K gross. This year, I have goals to get to 1 million. I have a healthy, happy household. My family's good. And yeah, it's just, life is good. I was down in the deep trenches for a very long time, and I couldn't look at myself in the mirror.
Right.
So, and but I can. I want to give hope to people that they can become resilient, in their transformation as well.
Well, certainly that's to be commended, Kelly, and absolutely, it's fabulous that you've sort of found the other side. I wonder if we can sort of just go back in your story a little bit, because I think where there's really some tremendous value for others is when they understand the steps that individuals have taken to sort of get themselves to a better place. And so I wonder, in your case, and so you said you made attempts for it to sort of kick the habit and get better, and didn't happen for you, and or like what was, like, what kind of things were you trying to do to stop?
So I tried Alcoholics Anonymous twice. It, it was just in my mind. I wanted to change. I knew I had to change. So I did change, but it only lasted for maybe a few months, maybe up to a year. And then I would get lax in my discipline. And when I would start doing well in life, and I would start excelling, is when I said, okay, well, now I'm going to go celebrate a little bit. And I could just have a drink, or, and it would always lead to having definitely more than one drink, and then drinking every day, and then drinking and getting narcotics at the same time. So having gone down that path a few times, I definitely know now what not to do. So,
Wondering, out of curiosity, do you think in those moments were you ready to stop?
I think at that time in my mind, I thought that I necessarily didn't have a problem.
Okay.
And I did. And it was what it was big for me is when I finally looked at myself in the mirror and realized that everything in my past, it's okay, it's happened, and I need to come to realization with it that I can become better, but I can't keep trying to hide my emotions and my feelings. And that was a really hard transition. And I made a promise to myself and my kids in the mirror, saying I'm not going to go down this road again. So,
got you. What do you think was the difference maker between this time and the other times? Like, what was there?
mm-hmm.
Was there a specific thing that happened, or what was the catalyst?
Yeah, well, so I was going to lose everything. I was going to lose my house. I was going to lose my kids. I was in a custody battle with my ex. And yeah, so I was at this crossroads where I could either lose everything, or I could keep doing what I'm used to doing. And I made that decision, and I'm glad that I did. And now that I've been exceeding in life, I can't look back. Looking back, I just can't believe I was down in the trenches for so long, when life is so much better once you get out and you have a clear head.
Yeah, and I've heard that in the past where individuals literally got to hit rock bottom, so to speak, right, and get to the very bottom to realize I can't stay here. What I also find interesting too is at one point you were in denial. You didn't think you had a problem. You didn't think there was anything wrong with you. So to get to that point of admission, I think I'll call it admission for lack of a better
Yeah.
term, right? I think that's significant. How difficult was that to look in the mirror and say, hey, you do have a problem?
Man, uh it was extremely difficult. It brought me to tears. It brought me to tears a few times. Um, I mean, I didn't look at myself, literally, I didn't look at myself in the mirror for years. I couldn't. I didn't like what I saw, but I wasn't ready to make the change to to uh to better myself. So by looking at myself in the mirror and forcing myself to do so, I mean, that was the changer, and the difficulty level was extreme. I didn't want to admit to it,
Right.
and I still, and looking at myself in the mirror, then I still was thinking bad thoughts about myself, but that's, I think, just part of the process, because eventually those bad thoughts weren't so bad, and they got better, but it takes discipline and the continually looking at yourself in the mirror, myself in the mirror, to be able to make that change.
How hard is it, or was it, to not beat yourself up and guilt yourself?
Man, eh, so I beat myself up, like literally. Sometimes I would walk to the door to leave my house, and I would grab the doorknob, and I would just stop and think, like, I was headed to go get a drink, and it took all of me to not walk outside of the house. And I would turn around, I'd run back to my room, my bed, and I would lay there and I'd start crying. Like, man, and then realizing, like, holy shit, like, I have such a problem, but I know people could get through it. So, my father, he's been sober for over 30 years now. So he was a guiding light in a lot of this, and it just took a lot in me to dig deep to find out what I really wanted in life, and what I was hiding from, and just to face that, and to be able to
Right.
face that is it took a while.
Interesting. You just mentioned your father, and I'm curious. So he went through a similar journey. You said he's been sober for 30 years.
Yes, so he's been sober for 30 years. As I said in my story, my parents, I had a troubled childhood.
Yep.
And so my father, he had left the situation when me and my sister I was around 8 years old, I think. And he left to better his life. And shortly after that, he ended up getting full custody of me and my sister. So he raised us, and he changed our stars, you could say,
Yep.
for the better. And but then I ended up taking somewhat of a similar route he did.
Right.
And he always told me that and tried to guide me, but I was pretty hard-headed, and I think I had a lot of trauma, and I was hiding a lot. But I figured it out, and I'm glad that I did when I did.
So what I find interesting about that is, you would have had a front row view to what your father experienced, and you actually would have seen the full story, right, from beginning to the other side of it. But you still kind of went down that path, right? Is that something you recognize in the moment, or did you see his experience as being very different than your own?
No, I mean, I recognized it. I think it was I just didn't care. And, and man, that's a hard one. I'm not real sure. It was tough. I was hiding from a lot of the trauma that had happened in my, in my childhood. And um yeah, yeah.
Hmm. It's interesting. No, it's interesting because again, you would have seen what that looks like.
Mhm.
And for some, and look, and for some, we still have to go through our path, right, Kelly? We have to go through our
Yeah.
experiences, regardless what other people have endured or faced or dealt with. And no matter how many times they tell us, especially our parents, right? No matter how many times they tell us, don't do this, we're still going to. I was just more, my curiosity was coming from the fact as to what you were seeing and how much that had an influence on the decisions that you made.
Yeah. I yeah. Uh so the decisions, I mean, I seen the drinking and all that, and but but that never stopped me from drinking. I did see the physical abuse and all that, and that definitely had a huge impact on me. And the fight or flight mode in me is more of a flight than a fight. And that's because of that. But the drinking, man, it just kind of came two and two. It was just more fun. I had fun. I felt like I could be myself. And when it was just really hiding myself for years, um, but I learned a lot. I learned a lot from my father, from his decisions that he did make.
Yeah.
But it also, at the same time, you're saying, when you're saying your parents try to beat their choices, their decisions, or their choices, their experience into you, and you just don't listen. And I guess I had to figure out a lot of that out on my own. And I actually, when I became sober, around the 2 year mark, I called my dad and I said, "Hey, like I appreciate everything that you tried to do for me, and I realize now that looking back, that everything you said was correct, and I just want to say, thank you." And he really appreciated that.
Yeah, I was actually going to ask you what your relationship like with your father is now, and imagine there's a greater appreciation for one another.
Oh man, it's huge. There was a long time when I was like kind of resented my dad, and here in the last few years, yeah, we're pretty close. We talk a few times a week. He watches my kids, and it's just great. It's life. Life is good, and it's all about changing your mindset and what you really want.
That's amazing. That's amazing. Um, the point around, I think resiliency is going to be an important one for individuals to understand. And actually, no. Before we get into resilience, sorry. The important piece I want to also touch on was you also had some mental health challenges that you were also faced with. Can you sort of explain how that sort of layered into what you were already experiencing?
Yeah. So the mental health it got pretty bad. I was pretty severely depressed when I went overseas for the first time. There's there's actually a point when I was overseas, and I had a 9mm pistol, and um I had a really severe thought of suicide at the time. Obviously I never took that, but but I made it through deployment. I ended up coming back, and that using alcohol, it really just started to disguise everything that I hated about me, or that I thought I hated about me. And um, after the military, I was just in a really unhealthy relationship with one of my exes, and she would be pretty verbally abusive, and then I would believe everything. I allowed myself to believe everything that she was saying, and it just took me down a deep road. I mean, I used to hate myself, literally. I mean, that's why I couldn't look at myself in the mirror. Um, and I never really went through it was like self-help to get through that. And so it was hard. But it just took a lot of changing, and a lot of changing my environment, who I was with, my friends, my family. The closest people to me are not the closest people to me now. Um, they say that you are the five closest people to you. You're just like them. Well, I literally, it was a very lonely time, and which was hard because I was also fighting the depression and trying to get better. But when I got past that lonely time and I call it leveling up my inner circle, surrounding myself with people that I want to be like. And now I'm seeing, like, it's just like getting better and better. It's like compounding.
Gotcha. Gotcha. That's got to be encouraging to, again, on the other side of that, to look back at that. You probably don't even recognize yourself, Kelly.
No, no, I don't. I mean, yeah, no, the smile on my face, the way I could look in the mirror, and the confidence and the discipline that I have, and being grateful, how grateful I am. I mean, that was never part of my vocabulary, being grateful. I mean, I didn't care about other people. I didn't care about myself, and now I do. And my relationships with my mentors, my family, the closest people to me now are just so much stronger than they ever have been.
Let's kind of go down that path of gratitude. What does that do for you, or what that can do for individuals?
Finding gratitude, to me, is in a way looking at the positive side of any situation. There was a lot of times when I would be in my mental state, when it was bad. I was told, and this came from AA, Alcoholics Anonymous, to always find something to be grateful for, but I never really could. And um, and I never thought of my kids, or I've never thought of my past situations of why should I be grateful for that. But now looking at it, I mean, I can say that, like, I'm grateful for today. The sun came out, it's beautiful, there's a bird in the tree, and man, it's just like, I feel like, thank you. I look up, I thank God and say I'm grateful, and it just kind of like changes your mindset, your inner feeling with yourself. Like, if you can find something, and it doesn't matter what it is, if you can find anything to be grateful for and truly be grateful for it, it just helps me hold my shoulders higher.
Kelly, as you're saying that, I can't help but smile. Like, it just, I can feel it radiating for you, that gratitude that you have and the appreciation for life, and whether the birds singing or the fact that you woke up today, it really is
Yeah.
important, because I think what it does is allows people to focus on the positive. Because, if you can see the positive things around you and recognizing that they do serve a purpose, and that there's reasons that you can be happy. Bad things are going to happen to all of us. We know that. We're going to go through stuff. We're going to experience stuff, but it doesn't mean that we take advantage or take for granted the things that we do have. And I'm hearing that from you loud and clear. I got to tell you.
Mhm. Yeah, thank you. Yeah, it's definitely, you hit that spot on.
Yeah, it's great. It's when we can get to that point of kind of realization, I got to do something, I got to make that change. Like I said, so in your case, it's hit hitting rock bottom. And sometimes for a lot of people, that's exactly what it is. I'm wondering, are there other things that people experience that might be realizations or wake up calls for them?
I mean, yeah, there was a few times when I've gotten arrested for being drunk and making the wrong decisions or fighting or whatnot, and it does like at those types or those situations, I had a lot of people, a lot of family come up to me, man, and look at me and have a talk with me, like, "Are you sure you're making the right decisions?"
Right.
You know, and and I would listen, for a little bit, but it never really stuck. Um,
Mm.
yeah, and I had to come. It had to come from within.
Yep.
I had to be the one to say that, like, I'm done, and then that's when it actually stuck. You can't force somebody. I don't think, in my experience, to force somebody to be sober and change their life is it would work for a little bit, but until that person really wants to change themselves, they're not going to, in my experience.
Uh, Tell me something, Kelly, because I think there's an important aspect around the recovery process that's key for people, and that's having a support network. Because here's the thing, you can get up and say, "Hey, I'm doing this and done," and without something a mechanism in form of support or maybe some strategies that help you stay on track, you're going to struggle. Support being one of the mechanisms that help you stay on track. Are there other things that you did or people can do to maintain where they want to be?
Changing your changing your habits, change where you go, change the people you hang out with. um what helps me a lot, what helped me a lot and still does, is I write down what I'm going to do the next day
Oh,
on the day before. And when I go through that, I can mark off, like, okay, well, I got up, I I did my 15 minutes of this, I ate breakfast, I checked the mail, emails, work, whatever, and I could check everything off. And that kind of, and then you can be grateful for that too. Like, wow, look, I've actually got all this stuff done. And then you can go back through at the end of the day. This is what I do. I go back through at the end of the day, and what I didn't complete, I move to the next day, and I make another list.
nice.
And and that, for me, it helps me stay on track. Gives me a path, especially coming from the military. We had a very laid out path, what to
Yes.
do to get the mission done. So coming out of the military, in the civilian world, there are so many paths that you can take on your own, and it leaves a lot of room for failure.
Mm,
So just, and this has been recently, just recently, the last few months, I've been writing everything down, and it has really helped me keep on track
gotcha.
and keep me focused. So, and I think that's really would help really anybody out.
Yeah, yeah, and I think that post military life is a key and significant for a key factor for a lot of individuals, because you said, like, your life is structured into what you do and carrying all the missions and the ABC in that succession. Then you're put out in the open world where it's free game and you can go in any direction that you want. It's really easy, just to your point, it's really easy to take different paths and not make the most appropriate choices. So maybe for those who are, say, coming from military service, what do you suggest are the best ways for them to get reacclimate to society and exist like everyone else who's not been in the military before?
I would say to find a mentor or a coach, and that person doesn't have to be necessarily a mentor or coach titled person.
Yep.
It would just have to be somebody that is living a life that you want to live and making the decisions that you want to live.
Right.
And and just make friends, be friends with them, be around them, see who they hang out with. You start hanging out with them, and eventually you become part of that group. Um, It's not about going to the bars and trying to find people there. That's not the right place to find them.
Got you. Got you. Um, no, I hear you. And it's really about making healthy habits and correct choices. That's what I'm hearing from you.
Yeah.
That's phenomenal. The piece around resiliency that I wanted to touch on, that's an important one, right? And that's one that people need to understand that they need to develop their resiliency. And what I like about resiliency is the fact that it recognizes that it's because it's your ability to bounce back from situations and recognize that things are going to get tough. They are going to be dark. They are going to be difficult, but that doesn't mean that's where it ends. Getting on the other side, bouncing back, getting into where you're supposed to be or into this new life is really what we're talking about, isn't it?
Yeah, but it's about not giving up. Not giving up. And now that I said that, there was a time that I gave up. I thought that being deep down in the trenches, I thought that was like my life. And I wasn't getting out of it. That's just how it was going to be. And man, I was stuck. And it takes a lot to be able to come out of situations like that and to be able to stay out. And it's not like everything's just, like you said, it's not like everything's good all of the time, every day. There's a lot of things that happen still, but having a clear mind, I'm able to take those things head on and come up with a decision on how to get over that or get through it, or not make an emotional rash decision.
Gotcha. That's phenomenal. I really, Kelly, I think your story is a powerful one, and so glad that you're taking it upon yourself to share and help others. The piece around this is kind of the end piece where you're now an entrepreneur. You mentioned off the top you got your own construction company. Was that part of the long-term vision, or where did that something you'd wanted to do, or where did that come from?
So my whole family has been heavy equipment operators, loggers. We're from that area of the industry. So I was always around equipment. Every summer I would go to my grandfather's and I would work on a farm. It was a dairy farm. So I would work with tractors and whatnot, and my hands. So I fell in love with operating. So that's what I'm good at. It's what I know how to do. So yeah, I went into the excavation business. I became licensed, and I just am so grateful now that I was able to even do that after everything that I've been through, and that I'm still getting these opportunities, and the opportunities that are coming they just like keep getting better. There's bigger opportunities. The further I go into who I want to be, like the better the opportunities that are coming. So it gives me motivation to keep doing what I can to improve myself.
I love it. I love it. No, that's a great story, and a great way to continue on. And again, when I talked earlier about sort of the appreciation and happiness that you're generating, I'm feeling from you. It's a lot of just making those choices and doing the things that make you happy. So, man, Kelly, this has been great. I so much appreciated the time. Thank you for sharing. Thank you for the manner in which you've been open and transparent and candid, because I do think there's value in that, being in your ability to help others get to the other side or get out of that dark moment that they're in. I've always said there's tremendous value when you can know that others are going through a situation and have gone through a situation that you're in the midst of. It does so much for upliftment, for encouragement, for inspiration. So I appreciate you for doing so, and also congratulate you, Kelly. So thank you, and thank you for being here as well.
Yeah, man. Hey, thanks for having me. I'm grateful again for being here, and I really enjoyed this conversation, and I hope it does. I hope people can find value in it, and use a little bit of it to help better their lives.
Sure. Now, if individuals are more looking to connect with you or learn more about your work, where can we send them, Kelly?
Yeah, so My website is www.digkelco.com. I have my social media platforms. Instagram is Kelco Construction, and same with Facebook. I post a lot of my personal life on my construction forums, and that's building my brand. And so I want people to know it's not just about digging and equipment; it's about bettering your life. And that's what I try to portray into my social medias.
Yeah, no, it's phenomenal. I mean, what that does, not only just for you, but your family, your personal relationships, your children, all those things have a huge impact, yeah, in a tremendous way. And so, again, I'm super impressed. Thank you. I really appreciate the time with you today, Kelly.
Awesome, man. Thanks.
As we reflect on Kelly's journey, one key takeaway message shines through. It's the power of resilience and determination to never give up, no matter how challenging the circumstances may be. Kelly's story reminds us that with courage and self-reflection and a strong support system, we can transform our lives and achieve our dreams. To connect directly with Kelly and learn more about his inspiring journey, be sure to check out the show notes for all the contact details and additional resources. You can reach out to Kelly directly and learn about his audacious story of transformation and determination. Thank you for tuning into this edition to the Audacious Living Podcast. Please like, follow, and share this episode if you enjoyed it, and we can help this podcast grow. Stay audacious and keep striving for greatness in all you do. Until next time, stay safe, be kind, show love to one another, and be audacious.
You've been listening to the Audacious Living Podcast, hosted by Audley Stevenson. If you enjoyed what you heard, be sure to like, subscribe, and share. Until next time, be audacious.